So I actually made you a handout to show you the most common room in the house that gets the most action with memory loss is the bathroom. So we're going to talk about that because one of the most common challenges to working with somebody with dementia is you have to change the environment. And I want you to think of it like this. Now, it's been a while, but I want you to think back when you raised a toddler. Did the house stay the same and the kid had to adjust to the house? I know you're giggling, you're laughing, but no, what did you have to do? Toddler-proof your house. So I'm going to explain this to you, and I'm going to give you 10 very, very common, what I call cognitive ramps. You're going to figure out what those are. We're going to learn why you need to do these things, because the brain is functioning very, very differently. And you can't keep things the same and expect the person with a changing brain to be able to keep adjusting. So you have to go the other way. I'm going to give you a couple of home modifications you can try. And we're going to talk about the Montessori approach to this and what that actually is. It's kind of an interesting concept to do. And then some ideas to how to support independence, and then always to how to reduce frustration, yours and theirs, as well as any type of behaviors. And I always tell people, behavior gets a bad rap. That's not a bad word. Behavior, you have behaviors. Every human being has behaviors. I mean, you're probably not as nice as you are when you're hungry as when you have a full stomach. So behaviors happen, and what I always teach people is that is how you learn quickly what that person's trying to express to you, okay? So any questions, always just stop me, let me know. But tonight, we're gonna learn something called cognitive ramps. It's a different way of thinking about dementia. So cognitive ramps, one of those things that, and I had a family actually tell me this, why can't they just remember? Why is it so difficult? Well, the brain is changing. The brain is constantly changing. So why is the brain no longer able to do what it was doing before? And I know I've talked to you about this once before, but I want you to think about this. A child is born, their brain is not fully functioning. You know that, right? The brain has to grow in layers, and it keeps growing in layers. And a woman's brain is fully developed at 22, 24, somewhere in there. And a man's brain takes a little longer. It takes until he's in his early 30s, like 31, 32, to fully be developed. So that brain is changing all through life. If you've ever talked to a toddler and then you met that same kid as a teenager, they're very, very different. And teenagers are in their own little, we could do a whole program on them, the way they think. But then when we get older, you have a fully functioning brain, and that's where you are now. But with dementia, dementia starts to eat away at little pieces of that brain in different manners, depending on which type of dementia you have. And I'm actually going to give you a flyer on that I'm working on for the next time that shows you what the different dementias do in the brain and what part of the brain is being attacked, so that you understand it's not all the same. But as it's undoing it or undeveloping, that brain is kind of coming backwards to like a teenager's brain, to a toddler brain, and all the way back to an infant brain. So there's things they can and cannot do. So the brain is changing. So dementia is a disability. It's a disability to process information. I always look at it like a communication type of thing. And you would handle a disability how? If you had a disability that had a physical impairment, what would you see for that person? What are the signs you see for physical disabilities? There's a few around here. You see the wheelchair ramps? You see the wheelchair signs? What does that tell the person who has a wheelchair, who's in a wheelchair? Where to park, here's your ramp, use it like this, right? So if you could actually create an environment for people who have a disability of information processing, that's what we're going to do. So this whole thing is going to change based on that. So the environment is either going to support success or it's going to create frustration and failure. So it's totally up to you. If you want to act like this person does not have dementia and you're just going to make them stay in the world, you're going to be frustrated and they're going to be frustrated. So you have to accept the fact that the brain is changing and the environment is going to have to change to match their ever-changing brain. Make sense? Okay, so cognitive ramp concept. If you had somebody in a wheelchair, you're not going to tell them, try harder, just get up and walk. Would you do that? They can't. So why would you do that to somebody who has dementia? Why do you think that if you talk louder, they'll understand your words? They're not deaf. They don't understand the language you're using. They don't understand what the meaning is behind that word anymore, and they're trying to find the meaning because they know they probably should by the way you're talking down to them at that point, but they're trying to keep up with you. So you don't tell them to try harder. You build ramps, you build handrails, you build automatic doors, accessible bathrooms. You make the life easier. You change the environment for the person who has a physical handicap. So when we're looking at an environmental support for somebody who has dementia, we're going to create these things called cognitive ramps. It's not a physical ramp. It's things to make their life easier. Okay? So I'm going to show you some of these. So stop me when you have questions on these. So, happening in the brain. The brain is constantly taking in information. Your brain makes up to 35,000 decisions every single day. It's constantly bringing in information. Even when you're asleep, your brain is still working. There is no downtime. So your brain can actually have decision fatigue, and that's usually what you would call sundowners in somebody with dementia. By the time it's 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, they're tired. They've made a lot of choices and decisions. And then on top of that, there's constantly sounds coming in and stimulation and colors and lights and people moving. And the brain is trying to figure out what things are important, what do I want to hold on to, where should my attention be? Someone's talking to me. Are they talking to me or the person next to me? They're trying to process that information, make it make sense, and communicate back their needs as best they can. They're also then trying to retrieve information when somebody says, "How are you today?" Okay, what does that mean? I have to retrieve the answer to find that. So this can be very, very taxing on the brain. So what ends up happening is it starts to gradually damage those abilities. And the person's not being difficult with you. They've lost the ability to be difficult. That's a high-functioning brain. You have the ability to be difficult. You have the ability to push buttons and manipulate people. Somebody with dementia does not. Even if you think they've done this their whole life, and maybe they have, that is a high-functioning brain process. They have to have a full capability to be able to do that. So the brain is just working differently. It's processing information differently. So the brain is under stress. I love this picture of stress. That did it for me. Extra information coming in is incredibly overwhelming. So let's look at what stress could look like. So imagine what your house looks like. You got too much clutter. Maybe the kitchen countertop is just covered with stuff. Maybe there's dirty dishes in the sink. There's paper, there's letters, there's unopened cereal boxes, there's things all over the place. That's a lot to take in. And the brain is trying to process what is important here. What am I supposed to pull out of this? Multiple conversations going on. I don't want you to do this the next time you go to a restaurant. Just sit and listen. Is it quiet? Even if you're the only one in the restaurant, there's noise. That kitchen back there is constantly hustling. People hollering orders, pots, pans banging, washing, people dishwashing. There's music overhead. Somebody's talking, somebody's walking, doors are slamming. If you're in a restaurant, there's invariably some babies crying somewhere. There's always kids playing. There's a lot going on. That brain is trying to process that. And then try this with a loud television in your house. That TV is busting, it's loud, it's going, and then you're trying to talk to your person who has dementia. They cannot possibly do both of those things. Complex instructions. You do this a lot and you don't mean to. You'll say, rather than say, "Are you hungry?" You go with, "Are you hungry? Come on, let's go out to the kitchen, see if we can find something to eat. I think I bought some new lunch meat yesterday." That is too much, they're done. Just say, "Are you hungry?" Stop there with me. They don't need an entire diatribe of what you're getting ready to do. Busy environments. So basically the brain is going to do what the brain does and it's going to shut down. You probably do this too. Some of you probably do not like loud noises, crazy places, a lot happening, and you'll go walking out. There's a restaurant in town, and to me, it is one of the most busiest, high-stimulating places I've ever been in. The walls are painted in neon colors. They drop it down to black lights. People come out in music and start banging things, and and it looks like a robot dressed 8 feet tall. That's a lot. And I have a fully functioning brain. I'm like, whew, okay, can we turn it back up and go back to normal? Have you ever been in an environment that's overstimulating for you? What's your response? Shut down. And if you can, you'll actually get up and leave. And the person with dementia would probably try to do the same thing, and you would actually call that exit seeking. But they're not looking to an exit to get at it. They just want to make it stop. It's too loud. It's too noisy. So think about what the environment's doing. So environment matters big time. Environment is either going to increase your anxiety or calm you down. So I want you to think of some environments you've been in yourself that's like, nah, I don't feel like doing that. That's too much. And I always equate it back to like parties and get-togethers, like holidays. Sometimes that sounds fun, but sometimes you might not be in the mood for that, especially if your brain's been going all day long. Do you really want to go out and be around 60 of your closest friends with them all having multiple conversations, music going, just a whole lot? And like, nah, I don't need that. Tonight, I just need quiet. And when you think of quiet, what does that environment look like? What is it for you? Might be sitting outside on your back porch, just listening to the birds, nice and quiet. So your brain, it matters. Actually, and I want to talk to you about this, and we're going to show you a couple examples, your environment can actually increase confusion, and it can actually increase falls. And everybody talks about, well, she keeps falling. I'm like, well, the first thing I tell you to do is look around your house. What is it? Is it cluttered? What's the carpeting look like? What's the lighting look like? Because it's not that she stands up in the plan to fall. There's something triggering the fall. The other thing, too, I want you to take a look at is agitation. The environment around you can actually create agitation. The other thing it can do, I gave you an agitated environment, there's your peaceful environment. It can also create a sense of success, and it can create a sense of independence and that I can do this. So take a look at the environment. So this is what we're going to talk about. It's much, much easier to change the environment than it is to change the person, because you're not going to be able to change the person who has dementia. No amount of you trying to explain to them where they are or using logic on a brain that no longer has logic, it's not going to work. I just got done telling my new hire orientations today. You have the ability to use logic. The person you're talking to does not. But yet you're going to, with your smart brain, try to use logic on a brain that doesn't have it. So I'd have to put the pause button on and go, which one of you has dementia? Because why would you try to talk logically to somebody who cannot? You're going to try to argue with them, and it's like arguing with a 2-year-old. Have you ever done that? Anybody ever lived to tell about it? Did you win? No, because the person that's 2 years old doesn't have logic built in yet, so you're not going to win this argument. They're just going, okay, and just keep walking around with their shoes on the wrong feet. They don't care. So you're trying to use logic on somebody who doesn't have logic, and all you're going to do is frustrate yourself and then irritate them. So this is not going to work. So you need to change your approach. So Montessori for dementia care, this actually came about by Dr. Cameron Camp. And is he Australia? I think he's in Australia. And he uses the Montessori principles. So you might have heard of Montessori before. There's Montessori schools, types of Montessori educations. And this is where we design the program around the person, not the person to adapt to the program. So the concept here is that we focus on what they can still do. We don't focus on what's lost. We focus on what your person with dementia is still capable of. So I gave this picture here because a lot of people think that somebody with dementia shouldn't use knives, they shouldn't use power tools. You suddenly act like you need to have them in a padded room, and they're not. That's not true. If your person, and I did this with my father, he had Lewy bodies dementia, so it was more of a muscular type of dementia, a movement dementia. And a tree had fallen in our backyard, and the 5 brothers started to attack it, and they told Dad, hey, you just sit over there with the kids, and we'll take care of this. Now, this was the same man that taught them how to use a spoon and how to use a chainsaw. So do you think he was okay with sitting with a bunch of 5 and 6 years old and being sequestered to the kids' table while they were tackling a fallen tree? How would that make you feel? I got 3 men sitting right up front. How would that make you feel? No. So I looked at my dad, and his face was kind of like, so I went and I got his safety ears, and I put the earphones on him. I gave him his safety glasses. I gave him his gloves. He had on his steel-toed shoes because he came ready to work. And I brought out the very tiny small chainsaw that he taught the kids how to use. It had the safety on it. And I said, Dad, I have a limb over here. Can you cut this up into logs about this size and then stack them right there? He's like, sure. Fired that thing up, muscle memory kicked in. He knew exactly what he was supposed to do. He'd been doing this for over 60 years. He cut those through, made the stacks, put them over there. He was so proud of himself. He sat down. I gave him a non-alcoholic beer, which he did not know was non-alcoholic, and you would have thought he won the lottery that day. Allow them to do what they're still capable of doing. I had the safety going all around him. I made sure he had everything he knew to do, and he went right back into knowing how to do it. He could cut vegetables with me. He could do all of that. It's not like he was going to cut a finger off. He knew exactly what to do. And his muscle memory kicked in, and that sense of accomplishment at the end of the day was everything. Now, I'm not saying you put him to work for 8 hours a day, but in those 20 minutes, that was everything for him. So you focus on what they can do, because every human being needs a sense of purpose and meaning in their life. They need to be able to make choices for themselves. I want to be able to choose because dementia takes a lot from you. And we start doing everything for them, we're taking away their choices. The other thing was his contribution to it. He felt like he had actually done something, and then when he looked back at his little pile of logs that we were going to bring in the house to burn, he was so proud of that because he made that pile. So that was huge for him. So keep those things in mind when you're looking at the Montessori approach. What can they still do? Let's focus on that. Don't keep telling them, no, you can't do that. People get tired of hearing that. But if you say, hey, will you help me with this? I need your help. That they like, because now I have a sense of purpose. All right, so let's take a look at this first one. Visual clutter. So those pictures pretty much tell it. Dementia brain struggles to filter out information. They're trying to figure out what's important and what I need to focus in on. And if your person had any type of ADD or ADHD before getting dementia, this can be even harder for them. So they're trying to figure out what is it that I need to find. So the idea is you want to keep your countertops clear. Remove excess decorations, okay? Even if they've had them there the whole time, start to thin it out a little bit. Because when Kelly sits down to do a project in memory care, there's nothing else on that table except exactly what they're working on. If there's other projects sitting there that aren't finished, a half-done puzzle, a magazine over here, and she's talking, they're like, I don't know which of these things I'm supposed to be doing. And they'll shut down. They won't have any clue. So what she does is she clears it out, she simplifies it, removes all the excess, store things out of the way that you don't need. Store the unused items out of the way because otherwise you're going to overwhelm them, and just give them exactly what they need. Less visual information makes it much, much easier to process what it is I'm trying to do, what it is you're showing me. Like when I would wash dishes with my dad in the sink, he liked to just run the water and wash them that way. So I just hand him one dish at a time. I had all the dirty dishes over here. I'd hand him one dish, and all he saw going into that water was just that one dish, and he would do the one dish and then stick his hand out for the next. And as long as we kept that system going, he was fine. If I put all the dishes in the sink, he would lose it and walk away. He's like, I can't do that, and he would get upset. Same thing sometimes with food on a plate. You might have to only put one entree on that plate, just the meat. Once they eat that, bring the second plate with just the veggies. Once they eat that, bring the second plate with just the carbs. Sounds crazy, but sometimes when you have 3 things on the plate, we don't know where to start, so we're going to get up and walk away. And it's not that we're not hungry. We are hungry. I don't know how to start this. Make sense? Like even, what's the one thing that we took away was sandwiches? Sandwiches are incredibly hard to eat. I want you to think about this. I'm not talking about a peanut butter and jelly where it sticks together. That's easy. But think about a hamburger with lettuce and dill pickle and tomato on it and a slice of onion. I just got hungry. All right, so how are you holding that?
Mm-hmm. Isn't it true that as things progress, they forget to eat?
Yeah. It's not that they forget to eat. They're not really hungry.
Isn't that the beginning of the downfall then?
Not necessarily. No. What the beginning of the downfall is where they can't process the food they're eating.
Subject to pneumonia, though?
Okay, which topic do you want? So, not wanting to eat can be the fact that it's confusing, I don't understand what this is, or it's complicated.
They don't forget.
It's not about forgetting. Your body sends a signal to you that you're hungry. Their body does not send them that signal. Make sense? So I actually have to watch somebody eat, and then I'll follow that.
What I was getting at is they forget to eat, and then they have to be force-fed.
We can't force feed.
That in turn causes other issues.
Force feeding is illegal, and it's a form of a restraint, and you cannot force feed. If you try to force feed somebody and the body's shutting down, it won't matter that you're doing it anyways because the body will not accept the calories.
That's how you get pneumonia, I think.
No, pneumonia is when they swallow their food into their lungs because they're not doing it themselves.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's 3 different things there. So not wanting to eat or not knowing how to eat or when to eat is because the brain doesn't signal to the body that you're hungry. They'll have hunger pains, but they can't identify that as being hunger. So you have to actually monkey see, monkey do. You have to sit down with them, take a bite, offer them a bite, show them how to do it because I've forgotten how to take the food from my plate up to my mouth. And then you do it that way. If you try to feed someone or force food on them, you can kill them without realizing what you're doing. Because you can force food in, they'll pocket it, and then when they go to take a deep breath, they'll suck it into their lungs. So we don't do that. We don't force feed anybody. And about 6 years ago, we figured out that even putting a feeding tube into their stomach and forcing calories into them didn't do anything, because once the brain shut down that I'm not taking in these nutrients, there's nothing you can do about it. The nutrients aren't going to go in. Make sense? So we can't keep people alive that have dementia because the brain's shutting it down anyways, and the brain controls every aspect of your body. And pneumonia comes about because you aspirate on your food or your liquids. You can also aspirate on your own saliva.
Is there a name for that?
A name for the aspirations?
Aspirate,
Yeah, it's aspirating.
that's it.
That's the name, is aspirating. So my dad aspirated on his own saliva because with Lewy bodies, he did not know how to cough when he would swallow his own saliva when he would swallow his saliva into his lungs. He didn't know how to cough to clear that because that is an automatic reflex response that your brain does, but sometimes we don't have automatic reflexes responses as the brain progresses. So let's go back to this. So keeping things visually clear for them allows them to actually process things easier. So you're going to want to do this in all the rooms of your house. Keep it visually free of clutter. So I showed you a bathroom. It should be clutter-free on the countertops. You shouldn't have a whole bunch of stuff out there unless that's the actual thing you want them to do. Keep it out of sight. Makes it easier. I love labels. Labels are your best friend in your house. And there is nothing wrong with this. In my kitchen, I had labels that would say the coffee. I had a picture for Dad's coffee cups where he knew where to find them because I wanted him to do everything for himself as much as he could. Even if it meant we broke 3 or 4 coffee cups a week, I'll go get more coffee cups. But I wanted him to be able to do it for himself. In the bathroom, I maybe would put the word toilet on the bathroom, or in my dad's case, I actually went to a picture of an actual toilet. And he knew that the toilet was in that room. Because if the doors were shut or even propped open, he'd walk right past it until he saw where that sign was. So you can use signs, you can use words. Sometimes I use both, but it just depends on, can your person still read that word and know what that word means? And it has nothing to do with their intelligence. It has everything to do with the rods and the cones in their brain, in their eyes, have switched and flip-flopped. And even though the word right there says coffee, part of the letters have flipped upside down, part of them have been inverted and gone the other way, and I can't quite make out what that says. But if I look at this, I know that's a coffee cup. I know what a coffee is. So you might have to figure it out. I had all of Dad's drawers labeled, socks, underwear, and I actually redid his drawers so he could easily get dressed in the order that the drawers opened up. Then when it became too confusing, I would just put down the things he absolutely needed in the order that we went in and kept everything else out of sight. But you're going to have to keep adjusting the environment. The labels become the external memory. I mean, it's great. Have you ever guys rented an Airbnb and they've got labels on everything for you? I'm like, oh, the silverware is over here. I'm like, this is great. I know right where I'm going in the house. But otherwise you walk in, you're like, does anybody know where there's a spoon? And you're just looking around for it. So same thing works for you. Labels make your life easier. Cognitive ramp number 3, keep the important items where they can see it. Don't have anything below like waist level or above the head if you're trying to find something. Keep it right where they need it. So when it was time for Dad to brush his teeth, I would set the toothbrush out with a toothpaste. Everything that he needed was right there. Because I didn't want him to go by chance. If I said, Dad, brush your teeth, and he walked into the bathroom, let's pause for the second. Walk me into your bathroom right now at home. How many brushes would I find in your bathroom? I did not say toothbrushes. I said brushes.
Yeah, kind of toilet brush, probably 5.
Toilet brush, body brush, bath brush, nail brush, if you have a mustache brush. And ladies, if you have mascara, there's a really cool brush right inside of that. So we could get confused. So set your person up for failure and lay out exactly what they need. Did you not do this for your toddler? You did. You'd set it out for them. You might even, as it keeps progressing and maybe he can't quite squeeze the toothpaste, because you do not want them to just take a guess at any tube and put it on there. You got Preparation H denture cream. You got all kinds. You don't want all that on their tooth. They don't want it in their mouth. So lay it out for them, and if they get confused and can't quite squeeze it, then you might have to start prepping the toothbrush for them, but still lay it out and let them try it. All right? The biggest way to start having people go on the lack of hygiene is to come in and yell at them and tell them everything they're doing wrong. We don't want to do that. We want to set them up for success. At one point, I would come in when I saw my dad struggling, and I would go grab my own toothbrush and said, "Oh, Dad, we got to brush our teeth." So I'd put it on mine and sit it down and wait to see if he could do it and hold it for him. And then I'd put it under water and I'd watch him do this thing. He's watching me because he didn't want me to do it for him, but at the same time, he didn't want to admit he couldn't remember the steps. So rather than embarrassing him, I just went in and brushed my teeth in front of him, and then he copied everything I was doing. And that's when I learned, all right, he knows he needs to do this, but he doesn't know the steps. And I could either embarrass him or I could show him how to do it. So choose. So every night we would have our own routine together. I had the cleanest teeth because I was brushing my teeth with my 5-year-olds at the same time I was doing it with my 85-year-old. So you just do those things. All right, examples. Also have clothing maybe laid out. If they can't pick it out anymore, maybe lay out the clothing for them. But the idea is that I want to give them as much independence as possible. And I call this stealth care. You know you're helping them, but they might not know that you did that. And the idea is that they did it themselves. And that sense of, wow, I did this, I completed this, is great. Now, they might get toothpaste on the sink and in the bathroom mirror, and I really don't care because their sense of accomplishment is what we're going for here. Does that make sense? You can clean that mirror later. It's no big deal. All right, cognitive ramp number 4. This is huge. So if you look at that example of the bathroom I gave you, I want you to look how I used contrast in that picture. And blue was the contrast color that I used. The toilet seat is now blue, so they can find the toilet to pee in it. Otherwise, they're not going to use it. The grab bars are bright blue, so they can find them. It's a contrast on a white wall or a cream wall. I even put black shower head and shower bar on there so they could actually see it. If you have white on white, they cannot see it. White on gray, not going to happen, and white on cream, still not going to happen. The toilet is one of the biggest things that we cannot find because we lose something called visual spatial contrast sensitivity. And it's a great big word that says, I can no longer see objects that are white. So like, take a look at your house. How many things are white? Because the toilet is the biggest issue. And this is the one I get all the time. Why does he keep peeing in the garbage can? Why does he keep peeing on the floor? Why does he go and sit on the chair? Okay, why? Well, they can't find the toilet and they need to go to the bathroom. But if you have a brown trash can sitting in that bathroom and they can easily see it and it's around, what are you going to pee in? It has nothing to do with being difficult or obstinate. It has everything to do with I'm trying to meet a basic human need by myself, and I don't want to ask you for help. Because the person with dementia does not know they have dementia. Have you ever met anybody that says, yep, I have dementia, I can't do anything for myself? Have you met a 2-year-old that says, I can't do anything for myself? 2-year-olds think they can do everything for themselves. And you're running along behind them, keeping all the safety ramps up because you want them to have that sense of, I can do it myself. We want them to have that. So I even put on colored plates. This is huge, and this is absolutely how you should do that. You want to have like a brightly colored red or orange plate. You want to have like a contrast, like bright yellow placemat underneath it, especially if it's sitting on a white tablecloth or a brown table. The idea is that the brain literally sees it as a target and keeps narrowing it in, and there's the food. And then again on the food, you might only have one item on there, you might have 2 or 3, but watch the busy plates. And as we were saying about the hamburgers and the sandwiches, if you notice your person can't quite pick it up and figure out how to eat it and it's falling apart and they're getting frustrated, then I want you to deconstruct the food. Just have the hamburger patty, just have the lettuce, just have the tomato, and let them figure out how they want to eat it. There's no right or wrong way to eat this. Tacos, not gonna happen. Just not. Spaghetti, no. Go to penne pasta. I can pick up the tubes and I can dip it in the sauce and still eat. Think about what you would do if you went to a really nice restaurant, what would be on a child's menu? And do the same thing for them. There's nothing wrong with finger foods. You can be dignified with that. Just make it so they can still feed themselves, still do for themselves. If it's too complicated, I'm not going to do it, and you're going to think I've stopped eating. It has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with, like, I don't want to be embarrassed because I don't know how to tackle that. Especially when you see them going after the Little Debbie snack cakes. You know they're hungry. They know how to do that. They don't know how to do the complicated foods. What's another one that we had to stop doing? Casseroles. Casseroles. Oh my gosh. Think about all the things in a casserole. Sounds yummy right now to all of us, but it's like there's peas over here and corn over here. Nope, this is too confusing. It's all together and it's in a mess. And if you have a person who had an engineering brain who liked things organized and structured and their food not to touch, whoa, casserole is not going to work. And what was the other thing you said? Salad. Oh, salad. Salad is really confusing. It's hard to eat. It's not that we don't want it, I just don't understand, am I supposed to eat the lettuce by itself and separate? So we just stop. You can deconstruct those things, and there's different ways you can get them to eat that stuff.
How about pizza?
Pizza depends. I've had a lot of people take all the pepperoni off and then eat the pizza and then eat the pepperoni second. But pizza depends. But pizza, if you get a lot of toppings on there, no. It's too confusing. I'm not quite sure how to do it. So what I used to do for my dad was fold it up and make like a calzone out of it for him. And that, for some reason, okay. Pizza rolls were okay. Slice of pizza, too confusing. So kind of look at it and watch your person. You can tell they want to eat it, but they're not quite sure how to tackle that. And you've probably done this too. Have you ever gone into a really nice place and you're like, oh my gosh, there's 16 settings of silverware. I don't know where to start. And you're looking around the room to see somebody else start because I don't know how to tackle this. You've all done things like that in your life. You're waiting for somebody else to show you, how do I start this? And when you see everybody else around you easily doing it, and you're like, I don't know how to do this, your dignity is going to become an issue, and you're going to get up and walk away from that table. So we have to quickly then pivot and come up with easy-to-eat finger foods that are still dignified, and then all suddenly we're all eating them. So I would eat the same finger foods that my dad was eating so that he didn't feel like he was the only one that had some special diet. We ate them all together. And then the other thing I want to bring up is look at your switch plates on the walls. If they can't find the light switch, one thing you can definitely do is put up the dark light switch plates, or you can do the motion-sensitive ones. I had motion-sensitive lights from my dad in the bathroom. So half the time he couldn't find the light switch, especially if it was a white on white. So when he walked in, the lights would come up. It was easier that way. So there was motion-sensitive. Cognitive ramp for clearing the pathways. Now, this is a big one, because I go into homes a lot and I'll see throw rugs. No, we can't navigate throw rugs. You shouldn't have throw rugs. Carpet on carpet is like a death trap. It's going to slide and move and shift, and they're not picking their feet up. They're shuffling. So you want to make sure you're not doing that. Look for excess furniture and clutter if they have to try to navigate around that. Too much. Keep your hallways nice and clear. You might even need to take things down off the walls, especially if they're walking along the wall and inching along the wall. And the reason they do that is the lighting. If you have lights that come down like spotlight pin lights, you're making large, bright circles on the carpet, which is fine, but those shadows on the side look like they cave off to the side. So they're going to walk a little bit differently in your hallways. The other thing you want to watch out for is having reflective surfaces in the hallways, like pictures. The reflective surfaces can cast a shadow when they walk past, and it looks like there's another person looking at them. And this can trigger a hallucination. I actually had a gentleman that the Vandalia Police Department called me and said, we can't get him to calm down. And it's like, does there mirrors on the wall? And he goes, no, there's pictures. And I'm like, do the pictures have reflective glass? He goes, yes. I'm like, that's who he's arguing with. The man had actually pulled a gun because he thought there was an intruder in his house and he had dementia. And it was him, but he would not let anybody in. So you need to be super careful and look at what could trigger an episode. What would trigger something with these guys? So reflective surfaces are not great. Like I'm thinking like mirrors definitely are not your friend because they don't recognize themselves in the mirror. Glass, like glass doors, that's a big one. You might need to cover them up. Especially if you notice it's making a problem, like with my dad in the microwave. I ended up just putting a solid sheet of like construction paper across the microwave because just the glare on the microwave, he's like, do you see that? There's somebody in there. I'm like, yeah. He thought someone was in the microwave every time Dad moved. He saw this reflection. So think about those things, yes. Thresholds are tricky. That's a good question. So a threshold between a carpet and a floor, this is big, and you have to watch this. So it's a transition piece. And transition pieces look different. So I want you to take a look at this in your home. This carpet right here would be horrible for somebody who has dementia. Where would you step? It looks like there's stuff all over the floor. There's things spilled on it, there's shadows, there's dark spots. and it looks like the carpet goes in and out. It almost would look like, to me, if I was looking at this through eyes that had dementia, that those are cobblestones with rocks, and then there's a piece where there's nothing there. So the person's going to step weird. And then when they come over a dark threshold looks like a huge gap that drops down about 30, 40 feet. And they can't come up on 1 foot. They no longer have the balance to be able to come up on 1 foot and step over the top of that. So if they come up to try to get over it, they're going to fall and go down. Make sense? Like a paisley printed carpet, oh my gosh. Paisley printed carpet is one of the worst things because it looks like snakes in the carpet. And they will try to work around it. So thresholds are big, and then shiny floors. Tell me what you think a shiny floor would look like. Like a marble finished floor. What would that look like to somebody with dementia? Ice. Or water. And they're going to like, nope, I'm not walking on that. So you want to be super careful and take a look around. Now, an old school technique, which is actually considered a physical restraint now, is putting a dark floor mat in front of a door or in front of an area you don't want your person to go into. But what ends up happening is that one, it's a mental manipulation because it looks like a giant hole going down, and it's very scary. They'll walk up on it and stop, and like they panic, and they like you'll see them like walk sideways to get around it. You don't want to do that. That's scaring them. If you don't want them to go out, just put a lock on the door, put a child safety lock on it. But don't do that, because if they really want out, they're going to try to figure out a way to get over top of that and crawl out, and they can get hurt coming up on 1 foot. So you don't want to do those dark things to kind of restrict movement. Make sense?
That picture of steps there. How do you deal with that? What's the best way to deal with steps?
You have to walk with them.
I see you have 8 steps showing there,
Mm-hmm.
which means it continues to go up, because the trial level is only 7. What do you do with that? You put railings on both sides?
Railings on both sides, and then you're going to have to look to see what they see. Now, typically steps like this, where the tread and the riser are the same color, they won't even see them. They don't even see it as a step. It looks like a wall.
Is there anything else to do?
Are you trying to get her to go up the steps or not use the steps? This, she would probably go up, might go up them if this is her place and she knows that they go up. She's going to go up the steps, okay? But a typical person with dementia might not even see those as risers and treads. What we would normally do if we wanted you to go up the steps is the riser would be one color, the tread would be a different color, and keeps going like that. So it looks like you're actually climbing up. Actually, one of the biggest things for falls are stair steps, bleachers, and those types of things, because I cannot see where the step actually is versus the riser. There's no difference in colors.
So lighting is important.
Lighting is huge because they're losing their peripheral vision, and then the eye is getting like a yellowy, milky surface across the pupil, which goes with everybody. Everybody gets this.
So should it be lit at all times then?
It's, what do you want? What's the goal?
Well, I don't know. That's why I'm asking you.
Is the goal to get her to use the steps or not use the steps? So if you don't want them to use them,
They're going to use the steps.
I actually put a thing off with my dad. My dad didn't use the steps because there was actually a gate that went across, and he thought it was a baby gate for the kids, so he didn't use it.
So his bedroom is on the main floor?
His bedroom was downstairs in the basement. He had a walkout basement for him. So yep, but I was able to get him, so when he did use the steps, I used them with him. He grabbed the handrail and I grabbed him, and up we went. And I would say 1, 2, 3, and up we'd go. And we would just count them off as we went, because he could not see the risers from the steps, but I stayed right with him as we went up. So, all right, so clear pathways. Simplifying your choices. This is big. Do not let them say, well, what do you feel like wearing today? And whip open the closet door, because you're going to be there for a while if you do that. So you're going to have a choice. You want the red shirt or the blue shirt? Once they make a decision as to what they want to wear, what do you do with the other shirt? Get it out of sight. Out of sight. And you want to let them pick. Now, are we worried about, are the fashion police coming to check his outfit out? So we let them choose what they want to wear. So my father had this Ohio State sweatshirt that he wore. You could almost see through it every time, but he wore it probably every single day if I'd let him. And that was his choice, so I let him wear that. I washed it every night. He'd put it on every single day. It's what he wanted. It was his choice, and he had this navy blue sweater he put over it every single day. My brothers would be like, he's wearing the same thing, sis. And I'm like, it's what he wants. He's comfortable in it. Pick and choose your battles on this one. If it's clean and it's what she's choosing to wear because it's where she's comfortable, it's what he wants to wear, then it's what's wrong with that? That's fine. because at least they're dressed. There will come a point in time when we don't want to keep the clothes on because everything's itchy and irritable and I want to take it all off. And you're like, wow, I miss the days when you wore that shirt every single day in a row. So pick and choose on this one, but help them out. You don't want to say, what do you want to wear? You basically give them the two choices. Once they make the choice, put the other one away. Help them do it if they want to. If they can no longer do buttons or snaps, did you know you can actually get magnetic snaps that you can replace on all the buttons of their shirt? So that way they can do it themselves. It makes life really easy. So I went through and did that to my dad's shirts. Or you can buy them that way, but if you've got a favorite, keep the favorites. Make sense? And if they have something that they love to wear all the time, maybe go buy 2 or 3 of the same thing, because I've actually done that before. Number 7, predictable routines. This is why memory care works. This is why Day Away works, is we keep our folks on a very, very structured routine. Your brain is a creature of habit. It likes routine. Now, there's a word up here called flexibility, and it's not about can you touch your toes. There is mental flexibility, and mental flexibility talks about changes. So the brain loses its ability to have mental flexibility before it loses habits. Habits will stick. So we get them into the habit of doing something. And people think, well, people with dementia can't learn. Oh, that's not true. They learn. They might not be able to have it stick and recall it, but after repetition, 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 the brain loves repetition. They know the routine. They know when Kelly's going to be doing something. They know when it's time for the daily perks. They know when it's time to go into stretches. They know when it's time. They'll come out and they're waiting for the next thing. They don't know what it is, but they know there's something I'm supposed to be doing. So you want to keep your person on a very strong routine. So you want to keep the meals at the same time every single day. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and the 2 snacks are always at the same time every single day, 7 days a week. You want to keep the bathing routines very, very consistent, and you want to keep a very strong schedule. They get up and they go to bed at the same time every single day, and they do the same things throughout the course of that day. Now, nowhere in here does it say, watch The Price is Right for 3 hours. That's not going to do anything for the brain, but cause all kinds of confusion and frustration. We need to keep them on a very strong routine. So routine is a very strong cognitive ramp. And by the way, this works for you too. Your brain likes structured routine. What it does for your brain is creates what we call a cognitive reserve. And that cognitive reserve, remember how I told you have 35,000 decisions you make a day? Well, let's say you made 35,000 decisions before noon. So by the time the next person asks you for one more thing at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, before you lose your patience on them, if you have a set routine going, your brain has a little bit of a reserve left over for you so that you won't lose it on them. And a routine means like you've laid out your clothes the night before, so you don't have to think about that tomorrow morning. That's not one of the decisions you have to make. You've pre-made the coffee the night before. It'll go on automatically, so that's one of the decisions that came off your plate. You've already got you know what you're supposed to be doing today, whose calls you have to make, what appointments you have to keep. It's already laid out, one more decision off your plate. So when you have a structured, scheduled routine and you know what you're doing, your brain actually frees up some of those decisions and you have a cognitive reserve. Same thing works for a brain with dementia. By 2 o'clock in the afternoon, their brain might be going on autopilot. And if they know what's coming next, they're not stressing over it, they're not frustrated over it, they're not anxious over it as to what do I need to do. They know that it's coming, I don't have to make a decision, it's already been done. So it's called a cognitive reserve. And that's what keeps you from losing your patients. And that's also what keeps us from having sundowners in a memory care unit, is that structured routine. All right, and then 8, environmental cues. So this is where the Montessori principle comes into play. So people need to have meaningful engagement. So what does meaningful engagement look like? What is it for you? A meaningful task. Give me something.
You accomplish something, anything. Right?
Anything, yeah, you accomplished what was on your to-do list. So let's talk about the laundry for a second. All right, so that's like it's my least favorite thing to do on the weekends. So both kids are living back at home now, so I have a lot of laundry to do. And when I can get that done, goes in the wash, goes in the dryer, it's folded, and everybody put it away, it's like, yes, it's a sense of accomplishment. So we can create laundry stations for them. It might be we're just matching socks. It might just be folding towels. And when they look back and it's done, they're like, I did that. That's a sense of accomplishment for them. It might be like a sorting station. And I did this with, this is great for your folks who like things organized, is take a junk drawer that you've created. It might have poker chips in it, playing cards. It might have different colored pencils in it. with my dad, I actually took his toolbox and put like some stuff in there, mixed it up. And Dad like, oh, the kid's gotten into this. And he just starts sorting. And when it was done, he's like, there, it's all done. And he closed the lid and he was so proud of himself. It was a sense of accomplishment for his brain. Even gardening basket, that was a big one. Or even setting the table. It doesn't matter if it's a meshed. Say, great job. And like, I couldn't have done that without you. The brain needs to have a sense of accomplishment, and the environment can do that for them. It can be the simplest of things. It can be helping you make dinner. It's like, can you do this for me? Can you put the silverware over there? Can you put water in the cups? Put ice in the cups, help you out like that. Think what it was that you had the little people in your life doing to give them, I want to help. How did you build up their sense of you're part of this? How did you build them up? Does that make sense? Because you want to build up this person also. Don't give them too much, set them up for success. Make sense? Because that's a biggie. That's actually one we use with you all the time, right? You've got the sorting stations, the junk drawers.
I don't have them out. We're doing a gardening one right now. We do more of a chore thing.
Yeah.
So I have one of our sisters, every day at lunch, she pours out a coffee.
Yeah, everybody's got a job. And everybody does their job, and they're so proud that they did their job. I mean, think about what an accomplishment feels like to you. It could be something small, but the fact that it did it, the brain checks the box that you still have a purpose. Because without purpose, what happens to you? You're going to shut down. So I got to keep the purpose going. All right, and then number 9, here we go. There's your sorting stations. So people need meaningful engagement. So it might be sorting things out. So here's your stations again. Baby dolls. The baby dolls. Has anybody seen the baby dolls that Kelly brings in and uses? Have you seen them? Okay. These are really cool. These are not a doll that you're going to go and get at Walmart. Matter of fact, she had the 2 dolls in the back seat of her car one time, and did the cops come thinking you left them in a hot car?
No, I was going through the drive-thru and they were my babies, so I had them buckled in, I had a blanket over them.
Yes.
And when I went through the drive-thru, the gentleman kept looking in my back seat. I'm like, okay, I know my car's missing. What are you looking at? I forgot they were there. I get my food, and he comes back and is laughing at me. I'm like, what's wrong? He goes, I swore those are real babies in there, and I was about ready to call the police because they're not in car seat. I said, oh, no, I use them for training. I work with people with.
So there's actually a certification called doll therapy. And we know when to bring these doll babies out and what they're for. So they're probably, a couple $100 each because they look like real babies. Real babies. They feel like a real baby. They toss, the head will flop. I mean, it's like a real baby. So if a mom is getting fussy and anxious and agitated, a lot of times a woman's natural instinct is to nurture something else. And in the process of nurturing something else, what happens to you? You calm down. Same thing if we do with pet therapy, when we bring in the pets. The minute they start hugging and loving on a pet, their anxiety just drops. It regulates their heartbeat, it regulates their breathing, everything goes into play. Problem is that we had a whole lot of women in this unit that love to hold babies, so now we have to get more babies. Because it's like, she's got my baby. And I'm like, no, here's yours. So we've had to do so many you left your baby over here. And we dress them like boys, especially if she had a boy and she had a little boy or if she had a little girl. The doll therapy is huge. And we play up on that one. So depending on if you were a nurturer, and it's kind of funny because we have a lot of nuns that did not have kids, yet they all want their babies. And I'm like, okay, we'll go on that later. That's a whole nother issue. But it's like the doll therapy works amazing. So if you see them holding a doll, I don't want you to go, oh my gosh. No, it's not like that. She needed something to nurture and love on. And if her whole thing was being a really good mom, she needs to feel like that's what she's doing again. Does that make sense? So it's not that we're taking them back, but the sorting is great, and then that's where we'll go and we'll get a bunch of baby socks and baby things and let them do those, sort out the laundry, because how many in here you were moms? You know what I'm talking about. That gave you a sense of accomplishment when you were cleaning up the things for the baby. So we don't go as far as feeding them or diapering them yet, but
we have diapers and bottles.
and we do. But some of them, that's the very first thing they need is to check on their baby, to make sure their baby's okay. And we will bring their baby to them. So when you see that happening, That is a soothing technique that we're doing to keep them from being anxious. Background noise. This is huge. And we've talked about this. You cannot have a conversation with somebody if the TV's going, or the radio's going, or there's other conversations happening. You think that your brain can multitask, but as a neuroscientist, I'm going to tell you your brain absolutely cannot multitask the way you think it can. It's got attention, and you're trying to split it in all different directions. So the person with dementia, you need to quiet the room. If you need them to hear you and you want to talk to them, turn the TV off. Not turn it down, turn it off, because even the visual distraction will keep them looking at something. Because we have flashes of lights and we see things all the time in our eyes with dementia. So turn the TV off. Make sure there's no other background conversation going on. And if you are trying to talk to them, you need to be looking at them, and you do need to be using your hands. Because I might see your mouth moving, but I can't understand the words you're saying. But if I see your hands moving and you're pointing to something, I know you're talking to me. And I keep saying this, we're going to have to do this. I gave a virtual dementia training today, and these 20, 30-something-year-old staff members put on the headphones, and they put on the goggles, and I gave them 3 simple instructions, like, I can't understand a single word you're saying. And they were getting so frustrated. Like, it is loud and noisy in my head, because the person with dementia has all kinds of noises and sounds and things taking place. They're called auditory hallucinations. And sometimes they don't even aware that it's happening. There might be a conversation that they hear that's playing over and over again in their head, or they might hear music or children laughing or just beeping sounds. And they can't stop that in order to hear you. So when you're trying to talk to your person, you need to be dead in front of them, and the best way to do it is to hold onto their hand while you're talking to them. Don't turn her away and start telling them what you need them to do, because they're like, is she still talking to me? Don't do that. You want to slow it down, no more than 3 to 5 words. Are you hungry? Let's go. Time to eat. You go slow. And you give them time to process. I think that's the biggest thing, is the pause. Because we live in a society where we want answers right now. So if I ask you a question and you don't answer me, what are you going to do? You're going to repeat the question again.
With more words.
With more words and loud, because maybe you didn't hear me. And they're not deaf. They're trying to understand what you meant. And then what are you going to do? You're going to answer for them. And that never works. So you want to go slow, and you have to live in the pause. I had a physical therapist that came to one of my buildings that I was taking care of a while back, and he needed the lady to she had her legs crossed, and he goes, I need you to put your feet down. And she looked at him. She was trying to make sense as to what he's saying. He goes, put your feet down. Your feet, put your feet down. And I'm like, finally I came out of my office. I'm like, dude, she's not, and he was yelling at her. And I'm like, she's not deaf. He goes, well, she's not doing what I need her to do. And I'm like, is that the only thing you've got, are words? He goes, well, how would you do it? And I'm like, well, that's easy. So I stood in front of her, and I went like this, and her name was Jenny. So I'm like, hi, Jenny. And she waved at me and smiled. I'm like, so she's clearly capable of communicating, but she's not speaking your version of English anymore. She's speaking dementia. So now you have to speak dementia. So I looked at Jenny, and I smiled, and I took her hand, and she took my hand, and I waved, and I stood back in front of her, and I looked at her feet. I pointed to my feet and looked at her feet, and I said, you ready? And she looked at me, and I'm like, 1, 2. And she did the exact same thing. And I'm like, now what do you want her to do? There's other ways to communicate to people than just your way. And I'm going to tell you this. If your person spoke a different language, would you continue to use English as the only form of communication with them? You'd have to speak their language. In relationships, you have to speak your person's language in order for them to understand you. But when it comes to some type of brain damage, you want to force your way, and it's very, very frustrating for that person. So, and Jenny in this case remember she was a UC Bearcat kickline girl from back in the 60s. So he said, I need her to stand up. And I'm like, no problem. So I played the UC Bearcat fight song on my phone, and Jenny stood up. She also grabbed the wall and started doing this. So I'm like, what else do you want to see her do? And he goes, I'm good, have her sit back down. I'm like, you just need to know your person. So like I teach our staff here, if we lived on the border of Mexico, 90 some percent, maybe 80 some percent of our population would speak Spanish. So you using English isn't going to work. You'd have to speak their language in order to communicate with them. So the person you're caring for has a whole very, very rich life. What's their love language? Speak that. And you don't have to do it with a lot of words. It's not hard. Mostly it's music. We found that in the memory care unit, we put on music. We can get them to do all kinds of stuff. But turn things off when you're trying to have a conversation with them. If you're trying to get them into the shower, if you're trying to do something with them, please pay attention to the environment. How many instructions are you giving them? Listen to how loud that water sounds coming out of the faucet. That's overwhelming, and you're trying to talk over the top of them. Do you really need to talk while you're helping them? Or can you demonstrate what you need them to do and then show them? You can do a lot of this through demonstration and say, good job. You don't have to have a whole lot of words. All right, and then this is a big one. How much should I do for them? All right, this is going to be a daily thing that you have to figure out, because the old adage is that in caregiving, the more you do for someone, the more you're taking from them. The more you do for them, you're teaching them to be codependent upon you and to do less and less for themselves. Does that make sense? So a brain with dementia is trying. It wants to succeed. It wants to have that validation. And when it can't do it, and you come in and just do it for them, they will eventually stop trying to do it. And when they stop trying to do it, we're going to have depression and isolation set in. And when that happens, it's really, really hard to reach out to them and grab them. That's where they start to back off, and they'll start to pass away much quicker than you want them to. So the trick is, I want you to do as much for yourself as you can, but I'm going to watch you safely do this. So the idea is, if possible, you want to support them. Don't replace everything right away. I'm going to give you an example. When you had a baby, the baby started out on a bottle, and then it went to a sippy cup, and then it went to a cup, right? So when we take somebody from a cup, and we immediately put the sippy thing on them to protect them thing, that's fine. But then when you start using straws all the time, the brain forgets how to drink out of an open cup and can only use a straw. So you're going backwards too fast. So you want to keep bouncing it back and forth, giving them a cup that's open. Are they going to spill it on themselves? So what? We'll wash the clothes later. As long as it's not hot coffee, I'm good. So it's like we keep doing that. You gave them, they started out using finger foods, and then they went to eating with a spoon and able to use it with a fork. Okay, so let's say that we can't use the fork. Let's try the spoon. Or let's try a spoon with a bowl that lifts up and comes over so that when they scoop up their food, it lands on the spoon before we take everything away and do finger foods. So there's graduations to this. We don't want to just take everything away from them and do it for them. They're trying to get themselves dressed. I'll just do the buttons for you. It's taking too long. Well, no. What if you put the magnetic snaps on there and let them get themselves dressed? Let them continue to do for themselves. In the shower, I tell my aides all the time, let them wash themselves. Let them participate in what you're doing. Give them the loofah, put the lotion on it. Let them just do this, and I don't care if this is all they're getting done. While you do everything else. You do their back, and you take care of their hair. But let them help you do something. Don't take everything from them and say, I'll get that, I'll take care of that. You think you're caring for them, but what ends up happening is you're taking from them what they needed. Cue them. That works great with setting the toothbrush out. That's a cue. Set it out for them. Let them use that. Figure out how to use that. Maybe he puts the toothpaste on the back of the toothbrush, but it gets in his mouth anyways. Well, okay, next time we'll put the toothbrush on the bristles. But cue them up. Don't take over, and you want to guide. And don't be so quick to rescue. It's okay if we mess it up. It's all right. This is like, give you an example with Dad and his coffee. He kept getting it wrong, and I'm like, that's all right. He had his sugar out, he had his coffee cup out, and he kept pouring the coffee into the sugar bowl. Well, it's pretty strong, sweet coffee, so tomorrow I'll just only put out a little bit of sugar in the sugar bowl. I just kept adjusting it for him and he would drink out of the sugar bowl I just put 1 scoop of sugar in the sugar bowl. He'd pour his coffee in there, and I'm like, that's great. He'd put the coffee cup back in the pantry, and I'm like, but I just kept making the adjustments so that he was succeeding. I wasn't going to let him drink a pound of sugar in his coffee, but we'd let him succeed. So is that okay if he did it that way? Sure, this is how we're doing it this morning. But to take everything from him and to kind of keep rescuing him, I did what I call stealth care. Stealth care. It's just like for example, we have a lot of nuns who like to play for bingo. Can we let them have beer? Well, no, but they don't know that it's non-alcoholic beer. So we just made it, they think it's the good stuff. It says Miller Lite on the side, it says Bud Light, and that's what they're drinking, but they can't see where it says non-alcoholic. So we just basically rescued them in the sense that, well, not rescued them, but we just basically switched it out in a way that you can still do all these things, we're just gonna keep it safe for you. So they don't know, and it's funny, after 2 beers, you should hear the language. But yeah, it's like keep every task where they can kind of do it on their own because it's going to strengthen their self-esteem. And that's what I'm trying to do, is get that self-esteem as strong as possible. Okay? And then support success. So instead of doing something for someone, you're going to move it with them. And I gave the example of brushing your teeth. You might have to be the person that's in there showing them and let them doing it. Then it might come down to you're doing that with them. And then it might come down to the fact that you're going to do a hand under hand hold. And a hand under hand hold is where you're going to come up underneath them. If they're right-handed, you're coming up with your right hand underneath them and you're guiding the toothbrush with their hand on your hand. So their hand is resting on your hand, you're controlling the toothbrush and helping them. So their brain still thinks that they're the ones that are doing it because they can't see you. You're off to the side. They're brushing their teeth, they see the toothbrush coming up, they feel the toothbrush brushing their teeth, they think that they've done it. So it's a hand under hand. And again, you might have to do step-by-step prompting. With my dad, I would lay out his cue cards on how to shave. But just laying out, I would have pictures and then I'd have step 1. And I'd have a picture of what you do. Apply the shaving cream first. Works better with the razor because Dad liked to use a razor. And he was capable of doing it all the way through. He just needed his steps because he'd get his steps out of order. Sometimes we'd shave and then we put the shaving cream on. I'm like, ouch. But to each his own. So basically setting it up to keep him safe. So there's 4 questions I want you to ask whenever a challenge comes up. These are the 4 questions. Is this task too hard for them? Where are we today? Were they capable of this? Because remember, dementia shifts and changes inside the same day. So depending on the type of dementia your person has, they might be capable of it at 10 o'clock in the morning. It's too hard in the afternoon. So what can I change this? And then is the environment too complicated for what you want them to do? Is the environment too noisy? Is it too cluttered? Take a look at the floor. Look at the lighting. What's going on here? Is it dark? Is it shadowy? Is this environment going to succeed or is it going to cause frustration? Next thing I want you to do is how much information? Are you talking too much? Are you telling them what to do too much? Because sometimes silence is good. Just wait. Do the long pause. Let them figure it out for themselves. You don't have to fill in the silence with more explanations on what to do, the logic behind it, why we're doing it. Stop. Let them see, process, and try to figure it out. You're right there. They'll be fine. And then what cognitive ramp are you missing? What could you do to make this easier for them? And that's what I call stealth care. What ramp could you bring in so that they could easily succeed and do this for themselves? Okay? So a couple of things on that. Real life, here we go. So Dad stops brushing his teeth. So there's the challenge. Your traditional response is, why won't he brush his teeth? Well, he can't process that. So let's take a look at some cognitive ramps you could use. Here's some ideas. What about the toothbrush? Can he see it? Did you leave it out, or is it in a medicine cabinet and he doesn't know to open that medicine cabinet anymore? Is it a color he can actually see? Did you get him a white toothbrush and it's laying on the white sink? Maybe we get him a blue toothbrush. Has the toothpaste already been applied? Is he struggling with that? Can we put a picture cue on the mirror as to what he needs to do, the steps you can brush your teeth in? And all of these cues, you can actually go to the Alzheimer's store on Amazon and download these cues. They actually have pictures for this. It's part of their Montessori program, and they have them for preschoolers on how to brush your teeth. So we're going to put them there. And then maybe they have to put the brush together. Like I have to put this here, and I know that I'm going to do this, and then I'm watching you do it. So I'm like, you did yours, I did mine, we're going to brush our teeth together. The results? Success. So if Dad stops doing that, what can I do to help him? Make sense? Okay, let me give you another one. All right, I love this one. Here you go. Mom repeatedly asks the same question. I get this one a lot. All right, so her storage system is damaged. She cannot recall. Memory is damaged. Okay, so she's asking the same question over and over again. Here's some ideas for a ramp, and I love these. I ended up doing this with my dad. You can have a written schedule. You have to have a calendar or a planner, and when that ceases to work, go get yourself a great big whiteboard. And then get some, and then you can see the teachers do this all the time, and you get this, it's tape. It's like, what is it called, like magnetic tape, or it sticks to the whiteboard. And you create your own schedule using the tape, okay? So you blocked out things, so the tape is basically going up to create a schedule. And then inside the whiteboard, you can have the time that you're doing this today. Just today, all you're doing. You're just putting up today, because time is irrelevant to the person who has dementia. There is no tomorrow. There was no yesterday. It's just today. So then you would put like 10 o'clock, breakfast, or you might have 11 o'clock walk, or 2 p.m. leave for doctor's appointment. Now what you're going to want to put next to that is an analog clock that has the time. So they can see, okay, it's 10 o'clock we eat breakfast. It's 9. And I'm like, we don't do that yet. We're going to do that at 10. What do we do now? Well, let's look at the one that says 9. What does it say for 9 o'clock? And then you want to give them the idea to scratch it off when they're done, and that they know the next thing is coming. So those types of whiteboard calendars work great. Visual reminders work amazing. If she's saying, what time are we going to the grocery store today? You can have a grocery store, and you can say, today is the grocery store at 3 p.m., and then you just put the analog clock next to it to let them know it's not quite 3 p.m. yet. You can use visual reminders, but these are all great resources and ideas. You just have to figure out what works for your person. How did your person keep track of their daily to-dos? Did they have a list? Did they like to scratch it off the list? Because let me tell you something about them. They're going to still like that list, and they're going to still like to scratch it off. Kelly's got a group of people that actually like to scratch things off the list as soon as we're done with that project. And they like to see their accomplishments at the end of the day, okay? That clock right there is what we use to figure out whether or not you have dementia. They can't use that, so I need a digital clock. So they can't tell, because the clock that we use to determine whether or not you have dementia, and that's a clock test, and it's pretty wild, and if it's wild to watch somebody take this test. We'll have you draw a circle. I'm going to tell you to draw a circle, and I want you to put the numbers on the clock. And this gets crazy, watching them do this. And then I'm always going to have them do like 5 after 10, or 10 before 5, or 10 before 2. Now, where are the hands on the clock? And they have to tell me which one's the short hand, which one's the long hand. And they can never do it. So usually in the beginning, it's a little wonky. And then towards the early stages of dementia, you might have just 12, 3, 6, and 9. But they're on the outside of the clock. And then they start to kind of shift and move. And then midway through dementia, all the numbers are at the bottom. And the hands, they can never figure this part out. Ever. The hands are all over the place. Sometimes there'll be 6 or 7 sets of hands on the clock. So it's like we use that. So when we're doing a clock and we're putting the numbers up there, I write it in digital format. My apologies. I put it in digital format, and I'll put a digital clock right next to it so they can match the numbers to those numbers. And I write the number the exact way the digital clock does it. So if that 9's got that little boxy thing that comes down, that's how I'm writing that 9. So they can match the number right to that. And that's their system to keep them straight as to what's going on today. If they have a watch on their wrist, unless it's a digital watch, they might not be able to tell you what time it is. Because the problem with that is they'll tell you that time's moving really fast, and they're looking at the second hand. Or we get the number hand and the minute hand completely out of, we don't know what time that is. So that could be going on 6 o'clock, or that could almost be 8:30. I don't know. So it's like it's really confusing. So that is hard for somebody with dementia to visually figure that one out. That's a good question. Thanks for catching me on that one. So, all right, and then the goal. All right, we're not going for perfect memory. You don't have perfect memory. So we're not going for that with these guys. We're not trying to get perfection out of them. I'm not trying to get perfect behavior. I'm not trying to get you to be a perfect caregiver. We're not going for perfection. What we're going for here is a connection. The more you keep correcting somebody, the less they're going to feel connected to you. And this works with any human being. It doesn't matter if they have dementia or not. Have you ever been with somebody that's like, no matter what you do, it was never good enough? Do you think fondly of this person? No. You stop trying. So the idea here is that I want them to participate with you. I want them to want to do this. I want to maintain a maximum dignity at all costs. I was just talking to somebody about this today. You're going to keep that dignity in check at all costs. You never laugh. You do not judge. You do not give them a hard time. You do not make fun of them if they're wearing that shirt for the third day in a row, especially if we keep washing it at night and that's their favorite shirt. You do not give them a hard time if they keep missing their mouth every time they try to put the food in there. You figure out a way to help with a cognitive ramp. The idea is to maintain their independence and for you to have a connection with them for as long as possible. Make sense? Because if you keep correcting, you're going to lose your connection. And the one thing I did right with my dad, see, he couldn't remember who I was at the end. It didn't matter. He got my name wrong. Didn't matter. But his face lit up when I walked in the room. I had a connection. I never ever made him feel like less of a human being or less of a man. I made a lot of mistakes along the way, but I'd always come back and go for the connection with him. I got more wrong than I got right. I will tell you that truthfully. But at the end of the day, the fact that his face would light up when I came walking in, I did something right. We connected more than we got it right. And that was not an easy connection because it was not a great relationship growing up. So final thoughts. People with dementia still want choice. They need to be able to choose. They still want purpose. They want to be able to control. They want to be able to control how it happens around them. You like to have control. You want this. These are basic human needs. They want respect and they want connection. Your job is to basically figure out a way to bring in a cognitive ramp without them realizing what you're doing. So stealth care, if you like that word, use it, it's yours. And basically, I see your challenge, I respect your abilities, and I want you to succeed. That's the whole idea behind this. And I'm going to help you. So the dementia-friendly care, this is all we're going for. Dementia-friendly is basically you're going to adjust the environment around them because they can't possibly do it the other way around. So the environment needs to adapt to the person, not the person to the environment. This is no longer what we're doing. We're going to make sure they have everything they need. So when we build a cognitive ramp, we preserve dignity, independence, and quality of life. And you're going to have to keep adjusting these ramps because they're going the other way. So like you toddler-proof the house, but we're going to have to bring it all the way down to baby-proofing it at some point for these guys to make sure they're as safe as possible, but not letting them know that you've toddler-proofed it for them. That's the idea. They can't know that you did that. It has to be very stealth-like.